One second. Call this meeting of the Darby County Schools One Board of Trustees to order. And please stand as we have Apple Elementary students doing the Pledge of Allegiance for us, and you can join along or you can just watch.
I'm Craig Williams. I'm the principal of Athlebot Elementary.
I'm Joy Fox Jensen, fourth grade teacher at Athlebot, and this is my class reciting the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you to the Apple students for doing that for us. It's always a great way to start our meetings. Reminder to us of what we're here for. All right, so a motion. Oh, we have any adjustments to the agenda? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, there are no adjustments to this evening's agenda.
Okay, now.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda. And I second.
Okay, motion to adopt the agenda in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, so we're going to do recognition of staff and students right now. So we have students to be recognized. And we're going to call up first South High School. I don't know if it's the advantage coming first or not. But watch the others close up.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Newton. I really thank you for accommodating the schedule. I know we missed one of our first ones because we're finding out that Camilla Wiedemeyer here is a very busy young lady, which is why we're nominating her for Student of the Week because she is super enthusiastic about education. She is active in many activities, including tennis, soccer, wildlife club, something with medical sciences, orchestra. And then there was one other one that I really wanted to share, that she has been provided leadership opportunities, even with the Harvard medical program. So this is a young lady we're super proud of. And so I would like to introduce Michaela Knox real quick, the teacher that she volunteered.
I don't have my purple lanyard, so you're gonna have to trust I'm a real teacher. So I think that Camilla absolutely 100% deserves this. I couldn't think of any other student that deserves it more. She's incredible. She keeps me in check every day because my ADHD gets wild, and she's always like, Miss Knox, let's go. She is the president of the Wildlife Club. So she is always helping me run the club. She's pitching ideas. She's helping me with contacts, helping me with fundraising. She stays after all the time to help clean up labs. She's always a really curious, fun student when it comes to dissections and other projects. And she is a true leader. So I'm really blessed to be her favorite teacher.
So I'm a senior at South High School. And I'm honestly really honored to represent South High School. I think it's a really amazing school.
And then can I have and then we also just want to congratulate the parents. So if we have Erica, William, and I know you have a sister in the house, so if you want to stand in representation, give our parents a good round of applause. Thank you. Work.
Our next person is from East High School. And as they're coming up here, I'd like to say that Lori Unna's mother has been involved with this program for 4 or 5 years. How long have you been doing? I guess she's at Western Vista. She kept asking me, is my daughter ever going to get this? I have nothing to do with choosing. East High School committee does that, but she's finally up here, so.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Mark Kirshner, principal of East High School, and I can say without a doubt that Loriana is absolutely deserving of this award. This is Loriana Walter, a senior at East High School, and she was chosen mostly because she's so service-oriented and because she's so involved with the East High School community. As an example, I was at the homecoming dance a few weeks ago, And I noticed Loriana in the concession stand slinging soda. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's just like, you guys were struggling to keep up. So I just jumped in and took care of it. And that's just what Loriana does. When she sees a need for her school or for her community, she fills in and makes sure that need is met. So Loriana chose Mrs. Stevens Hamilton as her favorite teacher, and we'll let Loriana speak here.
I'm a lot shorter than Mr. Kirshner, sorry. So yeah, like Mr. Kirshner said, Miss Stevens Hamilton is my favorite teacher. I always have called her Miss Hamilton. She was my English teacher in my sophomore year of high school, and I've always been an honors English student, but she pushed me harder than I've ever been pushed. And that's what's helped me succeed in my junior year. And even in my senior year, she's helped me with looking over my papers for my college English class. So I really appreciate that. But not only is she a great teacher, she's helped me when it comes to personal issues I'm having in my life. I'll go to her in the morning and I'll be like, Miss Hamilton, guess what happened? And she's always there and she'll listen and she'll give me feedback if I need it.
Hello. I also don't have my purple lanyard, so I'm naughty, sorry. But yeah, Loriana's awesome. She's also one of my favorites. I know we're not supposed to have favorites as teachers, but secret, we kind of do. But yeah, she's just great. She's successful in everything that she puts her mind to, and she's just a go-getter. She's involved in lots of things, and she's gonna be great in everything that she decides to do later on outside of high school.
I know Loriana has a lot of family members in attendance tonight to support her. So if we could get the family members to stand so we can recognize them.
And our last recognition is from Johnson Junior High School.
Good evening, trustees. I'm Michaela Bradshaw, principal at Johnson, and I am so super privileged to introduce you to Haley Breckle, 8th grade superstar at Johnson. Before the school year even started, she signed up to be one of our volunteers to wear our Firebird mascot costume, not only for our new student orientation day, but of other family events as well. And you'll see soon that her energy exudes even through feathers and a helmet full of crazy, because I knew who she was out of the 3 each time. So her teachers boast about her, not only her grades, but she is such an intense listener to her peers. She's a great leader on the volleyball court, and she was just elected to be our National Junior Honor Society president, who will be going on our next trip to Chicago for National Student Council and National Junior Honor Society annual conference. So also like to introduce her favorite educator. This is Mrs. Bradley. She is our Dean of Students at Johnson. So we'll go ahead and let her introduce why she loves Haley so much.
So last year I was her honors math teacher, and I get to now say I'm our resident Haley expert, because she gets to tell me all the time now about her day, about what's going on. Anytime that she has a problem going on, I get to be the teacher or the person that she turns to tell, like, hey, I need help with this. Can we talk about this? And I'm very privileged. Like, I have other students that do that too, but none like Haley. I can say I'm really the Haley expert. I absolutely love that. She excels beyond the classroom. Her energy is amazing, just like Ms. Bradshaw said, but it goes into the privilege of being able to talk with her and coach her through multiple things, not just on the court like her coaches have, but in life. Like I've been able to have those conversations, to know she thinks about it, goes home, mulls it over, comes back, and we get to continue that conversation. So just her maturity is amazing at her age. So I am so privileged to get to know you for a whole nother year, to see you grow. And I love you so much, little girl. Okay, this is Haley Brackle.
Oh my goodness, I feel so short next to this. So my name is Haley Brockle. You guys have heard me. I chose Miss Rodriguez. I call her Miss Rodriguez because last year her name was Miss Rodriguez to me. She's my math teacher. As she said, I can go to her about literally anything. Like I'm having a bad day, if I'm struggling with something, like she said, like I kind of feel like she stole the words right out of my mouth. I can go to her about anything. If I have a problem, I know that she's the person I can go and talk to, and I can tell her I'm having a horrible day. Like today, I just came to her and told her all the tea. It was crazy. And I don't know. I just feel like the second Miss Bradshaw was talking to me and she was like, choose a teacher, say who's your favorite and why. I knew that I could choose her because no matter what, she pushes me. She tells me I can do whatever I need to. She tells me I can get to my goals. And like genuinely, she acts like a mother figure to me. And as my mom is in the audience, like I love you too. Like I don't know. I feel like I have so many parent figures. Like I know Miss Bradford, she acts as my mom too. I have so many parent figures at my school, and I'm just so grateful and lucky to be able to be at a school like this. And I love you guys.
We do have Vicky and Devin. Family, could you please rise so we can honor you as well? Thanks for sharing, Haley. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thanks for all you do. Okay, Ms. Floss is going to come up now and talk about Western Business involvement.
Well, congratulations. What a great group of students. My name's Mary Quast. I'm Community Relations Director. And so on behalf of the school district, I just want to say congratulations and introduce PJ Brennan. He is our Western Vista representative for this evening, and he has some congratulatory words as well.
Good evening. As Mary mentioned, I am PJ Brennan, Senior Vice President of Sales and Experience with Western Vista Credit Union. It's an absolute honor once again this year that we get to sponsor our Student of the Week by the school district. It's absolutely amazing that we have an opportunity to go ahead and learn about these amazing students and all the things that they do. And so with that, we do have a certificate of achievement for all the hard work and effort that our students put forth with it, along with a Visa gift card. In addition to that, for the teachers, we do have a certificate of appreciation because certainly by the stories tonight, without all your hard work and dedication, this would not be feasible. And so with that, we wish you continued success in the future, and it's an absolute honor to be here tonight. So thank you.
And as they're taking pictures, I'd just like to say there was a theme tonight that not only do our teachers teach the content, they're also there as counselors for our students. So that's great. Yes.
Smush pictures.
Kind of squish it a little bit.
There you go. There you go. Sorry.
Ready? Well, that's what makes it fun. All right. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you.
And again, just like her mother, Loriana took over and arranged things up there, so chip off the old block.
You don't have to leave. Okay.
And you're certainly all welcome to stay. We have a lot more fun things that we do at our board meetings, but I understand that you're all want to get home, get your homework done, so. And grading papers for the teachers. Okay, next thing on our agenda is a resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a resolution of recognition for National Dyslexia Awareness Month, October 2024. Whereas dyslexia is a neurobiological difference often inherited that makes it difficult for people to read, write, and spell, which can impede reading comprehension and vocabulary growth. And whereas dyslexia is unrelated to underlying intelligence, can occur in up to 20% of the population, regardless of race, socioeconomic, or educational background. And whereas literacy is a critical skill need for educational and career success and socio-emotional well-being, and students who do not read proficiently by grade 3 are 4 times more likely not to graduate from high school. And whereas this district encourages all educators, schools, students, and parents to increase awareness and understanding of dyslexia this month and throughout the year. Now therefore be it resolved that Laramie County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees recognizes October as National Dyslexia Awareness Month in the district. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to have a proclamation for National Dyslexia Awareness Month for October. All those in favor, any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. And we'll be hearing more about dyslexia as we go to our next part, which is our first public comment section. And we have people signed up to talk about that. First up is, and briefly go over the rules here. State your first and last name. Keep your comments 2 to 3 minutes so others have time to voice their comments. And there will be a timer up there right in front of you so you can see it. Keep your comments general nature, not directed to a specific individual or individuals or group, and suitable language and content for K-12 grade students. Add additional information or perspective. Try not to be redundant. All right, so our first person up is Todd Reynolds.
Trustees, if you don't know, I'm Todd Reynolds. Good to see you. Father of 2 girls here in LCSD1. I'm speaking to you tonight to ask for you to vote for the informal hearing on Monday's Not Coming for 2 very specific reasons. First, it would show that you are committed to holding your process accountable to your process. This is a chance to show the community that you believe in the process that you created and that you will make sure that you follow that process to the best of your ability. An appeal is part of that process, and voting to have an informal hearing would demonstrate your commitment to the entirety of the policy that you created. Second, this is your chance to hear a presentation of the evidence so you can make the decision for yourself. An informal hearing is the way to do that. Voting yes tonight does not tie you to any decision on that informal hearing. It would just allow that hearing to take place. If you remember, a person may appeal based on whether there was insufficient evidence to make a determination. In the case of Monday's Not Coming, there was a split decision, 2 to 1, for the district selected reviewers. This is your chance to participate, to hear how there is, in fact, insufficient evidence to make a determination based on specific LCSD1 board policy. Allow me to briefly explain without going into detail. In the process outlined in the LCSD1 board policy, readers are asked to look at nominated passages from a book and then compare those passages to each of the 5 conducts. To see if they're actual, simulated, or animated, and looking for more than a passing reference or allusion. Actual, simulated, animated, and more than a passing reference or allusion are the key phrases in your policy. In Monday's Not Coming, 7 passages were nominated as being sexually explicit, and no passages were unanimously viewed as containing sexually explicit content by the district selected reviewers. Of those 7 passages, not one contains actual, simulated, or animated sexually explicit conducts as defined by LCSD1 board policy, chapter 7, section 21. There are allusions or references, but your policy says that to be determined sexually explicit, the passage must be more than a passing reference or allusion. In an informal hearing, someone like me would have the opportunity to break down each passage word by word to demonstrate whether there's a lack of sufficient evidence to make a determination. This is not about rightly taking the book as a whole, or about appropriately applying current and applicable Wyoming state statutes, or about asking you to follow Supreme Court guidance and federal law on obscenity. It's also not about arguing the quality of the actual overall policy. The informal hearing would be a way for you to see how LCS1 board's policy, very specific definition, applies to each of the 7 passages, and how in that close reading of those 7 passages, using LCSD1's policy, there is simply not sufficient evidence to come to this determination. This would be a way for you to adhere to your own policy. I ask you tonight to follow LCS1 board policy, to be transparent for the community. I'm asking you to vote for the informal hearing so you can truly participate in the process you defined in board policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Next up is Shandell Pine.
Good evening. My name is Shandell Pine. Thank you for recognizing National Dyslexia Awareness Month. Dyslexia affects 5 to 20% of the population. Assuming Laramie County School District number 1 has 14,164 students, dyslexia affects 708 to 2,833 students. 70% of welfare recipients have low literacy levels. If students aren't proficient in reading by the end of 3rd grade, they're 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. 80% of prisoners are illiterate or functionally illiterate. Students with learning disabilities, like dyslexia, are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. As of right now, only 48.75% of your students are reading at grade level in 3rd grade. You know this, but do you know the steps that need to take place in order to ensure that every child is taught how to read? How do you solve this crisis? How do we solve the pipeline between how do we slow the pipeline between 4th grade and prison? First and foremost, to follow the comprehensive system of personal development as required by IDEA and Wyoming Chapter 56. Train all teachers and paraprofessionals in science of reading, reading difficulties, how to support and accommodate students. Train all administrators, elementary, and all secondary English teachers in science of reading, structured literacy, reading difficulties, and how to support students using letters, AOGPE, classroom educator level, AIM, pathways, or approved. All special educators and reading interventionists must be certified in an intensive, evidence-based structured literacy program. For screening and intervention plan, give FastBridge or approved screening instrument to all students K through 12. If below 30%, then the student should perform a 1-minute reading fluency. If the student is below the 15th percentile on word reading, then the student needs to be evaluated for dyslexia with a dyslexia evaluation FAR or test of dyslexia delivered by a psychologist or certified practitioner. Then the student needs to be placed on an individual reading plan. This needs to happen for kindergarten through 12th grade students. If the student is above the 15th percentile on word reading, then they should receive a diagnostic to show the specific foundational skill they are missing, then intervene accordingly using an evidence-based structured literacy intervention program. If the student reads accurately but does not comprehend, look into developmental language disability. If students are diagnosed with dyslexia, they will be placed in an intensive evidence-based structured literacy program for 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, delivered by a highly qualified certified teacher. Thank you for your time and for recognizing dyslexia. Now please hold Dr. Newton accountable for ensuring that every child is taught how to read.
Thank you, Shandell. Next up is Annie McLaughlin. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, McLaughlin.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk. I was here before and with your permission, pretty much what Shondell said, we have copies for you. Would you like that? I mean, just kind of.
Let's take them over there and give them to us.
Because there was a lot of information. Yeah, I'm here, not to reiterate too much, but of course I'm raising a grandson who I love very much. He's 12. He is one of the fortunate children that is receiving Structural literacy, Wilson program, a very rigorous, intense, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, after tens of thousands of dollars we've spent on attorneys. So he is receiving that. I would just like to be honest, I don't have a speech, but I've worked with legislators on different issues over the years because my business is working with people with disabilities. So, I was wondering if it were possible to really have you guys come together and create like a task force. I mean, not a token task force, but some kind of a working body comprised of stakeholders, people from the administrators, teachers, people who are trained, certified, some parents, some children are witnessing the fact that they could not read, and with the program they are reading. Because it's time not to just, I don't want to come up here 6 months from now and be talking about this. I am getting what I want, but I am afraid of going to the next IEP meeting because 3 separate times the administration in this district, not current, but past administration, has literally usurped the IEP process and instructed the IEP team to remove the language that's on his IEP. So I feel like I'm signing up for combat duty every time I walk into a building. I don't want to go through that again. All we're asking for is 1 hour a day from a teacher who actually is trained. And I don't mean a 5-day workshop. So this outline that Carrie was put together talks about RFPs, getting a systemic, practical group together to solve this problem, because it is solvable. But there should be accountability. That's all I'm saying. There's got to be accountability because not all the parents have attorneys or can hire attorneys. I'm older, I have more money. I didn't have any money when I was younger. So, but it shouldn't be that way. Not just the privileged, but all children deserve to learn to read, especially the ones with dyslexia who struggle. And I am supporting, the teachers who are going through this training, and I'm supporting the administrator who sanction this, who want to see it. It's time to act. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie. Next up is Carrie Roden. I was hoping it wasn't gonna be a student coming up since I gave the full name.
She's my support person. My name is Carrie Roden. I thank you for recognizing dyslexia. I am a board member of the International Dyslexia Association Rocky Mountain Branch. I'm a Wilson dyslexia therapist, and I'm a structured literacy dyslexia specialist. I have a lot of knowledge, and as you probably know, as I forwarded my resignation email to you, I could only do it for so long. Let me just start. So I try to take a proactive approach to this. Since I was an educator and a teacher for 12 years with a master's degree in reading, and then I had a daughter that beautiful, intelligent, bright, animal-loving daughter that has profound dyslexia, and I realized that I didn't know what was going on. I decided instead of taking the stance with my partner, Heather Fleming from Wyatt, of like coming to the meetings and going to the school boards and legislature and shouting, I was going to try to make the change from within and be proactive. And that was really outside of me. That was outside my scope of who I am as a person. But I was doing it for her and for every student that struggles to read. Now, my daughter was kind of hurt in the middle of this because I had to kind of tiptoe around what she needed. And now as I look back, because I didn't hire an attorney from the beginning, and because I didn't hire an advocate, I didn't get the IEP process at all. And I kind of got her what she needed a little bit, but it was 3 years of kind of iffy, like teachers didn't really understand the why. And then we had 2 really good years of teachers that were really trained, and she just blossomed and grew so much. And now I had to hire an attorney to make sure and to ensure that she continues to get what she needs. They're trying to pull the intervention that she has been in, and she is reading so much higher than I ever thought she would. And so when I had to hire an attorney against my own district to get my daughter what she needs, that's where I draw the line. You read some great words from the dyslexia proclamation that I wrote for the state. Those are words. You need to take action. Illiteracy is the most solvable problem in our universe. And so we're spending so much time right now figuring about the words that kids are reading, not whether they can actually read the words. Our kids can all be taught to read. You need to hold the administration accountable. I've been in there. There's a lot of great talking. There's a lot of great words going on, but there's no action. And like I said, I've been back in this district for 5 years trying to make change, and it's not happening. There's words that literacy is our #1 priority. Well, show me what you're gonna change. Stop taking electives away from junior high kids that struggle. I refuse to have an elective taken away from her. I'm like, you're not gonna to punish my child for being dyslexic, but yet we punish all these kids and these are our dropouts. So please contact me, hold our administration accountable to make sure that they are doing what they say that they're doing.
Thank you, Terry. And your support person. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the agenda topic? Anybody online? Please raise your hand if you're online. Is there somebody back there? Oh, okay. We have another speaking time later for things that aren't on the agenda. So anybody else on agenda? Anybody online?
Mr. Chairman, there are no hands raised online.
Okay, so we'll end this items of visitors, and we will do another one later on for any other topics. Board communication reports. So I'll start by, as I've done the last few meetings, for the candidates for the 3 open positions. Myself, Trustee Smith, and Trustee Ashby are running. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to introduce themselves who's also running?
Sheila Kessler, by the board. Haley Reed.
Thank you, and again, thank you for stepping into the arena. It's always a scary thing to put yourself out there and see what people think of you with their votes. So we're all anxiously awaiting these next few days as the votes are cast. As far as board communications rewards, I'm going to start with mine, and that is several of the board members asked what's going to be coming up, the Wyoming School Board Association board meeting this week. And the agenda is not out until Wednesday, but I did reach out to Brian. He said there's nothing I need to bring up with you ahead of time, but I'll have a report for you from the board meeting next time we meet, and so that you'll have an idea of what possibly you could be voting on at the delegate assembly. So right, that's all I have. Anybody else from the board? No, nothing. Okay, I will say that I had a chance on Thursday of last week to go to Lebhart Elementary, which I visited all the elementary schools when I first got on the board, but I haven't been to Lebhart for a long time, so it's great to get into that building. And we were out there as part of the Exploring Laramie 1 program, and this was a stop so that the exploring people and anybody else who was invited, and there were a couple other board members that were there also, got a chance to see our preschool program, our pre-K program. And what a fabulous thing. And I know that the results we've seen from there during our study sessions have been fabulous. And I think the reading is probably part of that. But just the interaction, seeing those, actually getting in there with those students and watching them doing the learn to play. And I heard learn to play a lot at the National School Board Association meeting last spring. And I guess I got to see it in action during when we were there for our visit. We actually got to sit down with those kids and actually see them playing, and they got to tell us about what they were doing. And I'm not sure it does seem like play to them, but there is a lot of learning going on with that too. And one of the things they talked about was not only are they learning academic type things, but a lot of these kids don't have the chance to interact with any other kids, maybe at home, maybe their only child. And so they get a chance to learn their social skills also. And I think that's equally important to the academic skills that they learn. Anybody else have anything to bring up?
I got
Okay.
to learn how to save the superhero.
So
So we got to learn how to save the superheroes
right.
in the pre-K class. Great.
This is for those who weren't there. The superheroes had all kinds of rubber bands on them, and they were twisted and turned. And those kids, that was, I guess, a dexterity type thing that they were trying to do. And there was one little boy, I think he spent his entire time we were there. Some of the others were changing stations, but he spent his entire time on that one. He got every single rubber band off of every one of those superheroes. So kudos to him. And these kids were just very open to us and explaining to us what they were doing and how much fun they were having. And the teacher is absolutely fabulous. We got to see a session where she was actually sitting down with them and they were doing some activity where they were singing a song and learning letters at the same time. So again, it was a great experience. So those of you who are thinking about learning more about the district, exploring LCSD1, it's already started for this year, but there'll be a new class starting next year. So a great program started by our former superintendent, and it's being continued because it's been such a success. All right. See our upcoming meetings, November 4th, 5 p.m. work session, 6 p.m. regular board meeting. November 6th, there'll be a 6:30 p.m. parent advisory committee in the boardroom. And November 18th, there'll be a 6 p.m. regular board meeting. Very individual reports. Okay, now we're at superintendent reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few items to share with the board and the community. Closely related to the proclamation we just heard and Dyslexia Awareness Month. I'm very pleased to report that last week, almost 500 elementary teachers, including our elementary special ed teachers, related staff providers, 241 paras, and all those who intervened with reading difficulties just received a full day of training on literacy instruction with more trainings to follow very soon. Also, October is also Down Syndrome Awareness Month, a group of kids near and dear to my heart. I wanted to give a shout out for that cause as well. As everybody knows, we have had the very unfortunate experience recently with several threats to our schools. We understand that these threats, though unfounded thus far, cause great fear and anxiety amongst our students, families, and staff. School safety remains our top priority. And while it's reassuring that no weapons have been found to be present in our schools thus far, we must remain vigilant in our efforts to protect everybody. We know these are difficult times, and we're here to support those who are feeling scared or uncertain. Please continue to report anything suspicious, and together we hope we will always ensure our schools remain safe and secure. And in a similar vein, in response to recent racist incidents shared by members of our community, I want to make it very clear that our district condemns all acts of racism in our schools. We stand in full support of those impacted and affected and are committed to ensuring a safe environment for all of our students. Because privacy laws prevent us from sharing details about the circumstances and specific disciplinary actions in any given case, it may give the impression that schools are not responding. I want to assure the community that appropriate measures are being taken to hold offenders accountable and also to provide necessary education to them so that they no longer engage in hurtful actions. Please know that we take these matters very seriously and are addressing them with the urgency and care that they deserve. As you may know, we're also sifting through our recent, the state released performance and accountability reports that have been coming out. And there's a lot to share in the future, but a few that I thought would be worth singling out tonight. We had two of our schools, Anderson Elementary and Gilchrist Elementary, that were designated as exceeding expectations on the state measure. And while we had a number of our schools that were meeting expectations, one of our Title I schools, Alta Vista, has gone from a few years ago being repeatedly on the schools list of schools in need of improvement. Alta Vista met expectations this year. So we're very, very proud of the efforts of those schools and all of our schools. And the one last thing that as we were sorting through some of our ACT data in our high schools, we noticed that when we look at the big districts, what we might call the big four, Casper, Gillette, Rock Springs, and ourselves, we have just moved up to where we're number one out of the four big districts on overall composite ACT scores. Our scores are steadily improving. And when you're testing 1,000 kids in a cohort, that's not signal noise. When we see those kind of improvements, we know that profound things are indeed happening. We know that we have a long way to go in all of these matters that I shared with you this evening. We are committed to getting better and better each day. And with that, Mr. Chair, that's the end of my reports.
I would just like to add that one of the most valuable tools we have in investigating these incidents that have been happening recently are the cameras that we have. We appreciate all the money the legislature's given us over the last 4 or 5 years to make sure that those cameras, we have enough of them, although we could always use more, and that they're updated so that they have a better quality picture. We just got through doing that. So those are always very, very helpful in solving these situations. So that also should make students feel safer too, because I would guess that most cases, they're gonna think twice before they do it if they know there's a camera that's going to catch them. I know that back when I was a teacher, there were a lot more fights in schools, but once we put those cameras in the hallways and on the buses, those fights, well, they may not have diminished, but they went someplace else at least. So hopefully they diminished, but at least they're not happening within our schools anymore. And if they are, you certainly can get the facts a lot more quickly rather than just listening to the stories from each side. Anything else? Anybody have the word? Okay, so next we go to the consent agenda. All items listed with the designation of CA are considered to be routine items by the governing body and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items. Any item removed from the consent agenda will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does any board member request to remove a motion from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move.
Not seeing any?
Sorry.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve all motions listed as consent agenda.
And I second.
You have a motion second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. And now we're going to move down to new business.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant permission to contract for cellular service and hardware with T-Mobile for an amount not to exceed $175,000 using funds from the school and department budgets.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve cellular service with T-Mobile. Any questions or comments? Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair,
Yes.
I think it would be good for for those listening to understand why we're making this change.
Mr. McKinney, would you mind stepping forward?
He loves to come up and talk to us.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Clausen, are you speaking about the change from Verizon to T-Mobile? Sure, we're looking at a cost savings of about up to 50% with this change for us. So, and we've done a lot of work to make sure that coverage is appropriate and we're getting the same level of service.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
I just want to thank Mr. McKinney and his team for looking at that and finding us cost savings. Appreciate it.
Of course, any dollars we save there can be used for student-related things. Yes.
I actually just was hoping to get a little background on that since it sounds like we're just replacing expenditures we've already approved and moving those over to this company.
Can you give us an idea of who it is that the district provides cell phones for?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Trustee Smith. Cell phones are generally provided for administrators and then also for technicians. We have some school bus lines, backup lines on some buildings. For the most part, it's a line-to-line switch from one vendor to the other.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion second to approve the permission, approve the cellular service with T-Mobile. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Just to let everybody know, we are missing one board member at this point. So we have 6 here, but it still takes, because we need a majority to pass any option. It's going to take 4 votes to pass on any of these options that we're going through. Okay, we got another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to set an informal hearing for November 4th, 2024 for the board to consider whether there was sufficient evidence to support the superintendent's determination that the book Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson contains sexually explicit material.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second to set an informal hearing. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Again, what your roll for is actually saying that we're going to have a hearing. So all those in favor of having a hearing, say aye.
Aye.
I see hands. Okay, all those opposed? No?
No.
I see hands there. Okay, so did not get 4 votes, so it does not pass. All right, so now we're gonna go on to the next motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to affirm the superintendent's determination that Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson contains sexually explicit content.
I second.
Okay, a motion and second to affirm the superintendent's determination that Monday's Not Coming contains sexually explicit material. Any further discussion?
Yeah, they can.
Yes, go ahead, down there.
Thank you. I think you all know how I feel about this. This is the book I use many times when, discussing our library policy, and that it is, quite, broad and, will make many books that, are award-winning and important books, for our children to read, in the sexual explicit category. My opinion about Monday's Not Coming is that it should be required reading, not only for all the kids in the district, but for all the parents as well. It's a very, moving book. It, discusses, many different, topics. And if part of our library policy was to have to read a book and determine whether the entire content of the book is important or not, this would definitely not be on the sexually explicit list. It addresses invisibility of kids in poverty. It addresses dyslexia. It addresses and the stigma that is caused by that. It addresses many, many different things. The characters, the main characters in this book never have sex. Sex is brought up maybe 3 different times, but it's never explicit. It's never direct. It is always a passionate reference, and this book should definitely not be considered sexually explicit. And so I think I'm disappointed that there's not going to be a hearing, because I think this would be a really good way for us to test this library policy, and the administrative regulations that came out of it. And I'm disappointed that that's not going to happen, but this book should not be on the sexually explicit list.
Trustee Smith?
Mr. Reynolds will be happy to know I did read the book, the entire book, and it's a great book. I enjoyed it very much. I actually stayed up really late last night finishing the book. But it has content, not thematic, but there are parts of the book that are troubling, and there are parts of the book with language and with situations that contain content that is sexually explicit. As a mom, I would like to know before my child is able to check out this book, that perhaps it has content that I would find troubling. And that's what our policy allows. For the families in the district who are not opposed to this book or the type of content that it and others might contain, their children can still check out the book. They can say, my child may read anything they want. There's not a problem for their children to access this book. For a parent who possibly has concerns about content or their child having access to certain things, they, by this policy, have the right to say, because we found that it contains this kind of content, I don't want my kiddo to read it. In terms of the vote at hand, though, and affirming the superintendent's determination, we do have a procedure set out in administrative regulation. Their administration, our legal counsel, they work tirelessly to come up with a way to review these books. And with this particular book and these determinations, 2 of the 3 reviewers agreed that it contains sexually explicit content. The superintendent then, in looking at those and looking at the supporting information, also agreed it contained that data. So I appreciate that we have a process in place, and I support what 3 out of the 4 who looked at the book and looked at the information have said. So.
Anybody else? I would like to say that in order to make the decision that the board did on these two items that we're voting on, the one previous and the one, this one, we got to see, first of all, of the original complaint that put it onto the list. We got to see all of the forms filled out by the people that were evaluating the books. We got to see the form that was filled into to start this process of trying to look at that process again, have the board look at it again, appealing it to the board. And so we had plenty of evidence to look at. That's the reason I didn't think a hearing would have necessary, would have been. And we also had heard some more today from one of our people that were making comments. So I at least had plenty of information in order to make my determination. So we're not doing this blindly. And so we have plenty of information to look at. Any other comments? Yes.
I'd like to respond a little bit and just say that, however, of the three reviewers, they did not all agree on the specific passages that they considered sexually explicit. And I think that explains, or that is a perfect example of how vague the policy is.
Any other comments? Yes.
I just wanted to say that I know trustee Hinkle has mentioned in her opinion, this should be required reading. But this policy has always been about giving back the power to individual families to choose for their minor. And we're not taking this book off the shelves. You have access to it through our school library if you want your child to read it. It's your decision. And that was the beauty of the policy before. And we met with our library staff before we even started this process, and we learned about how parents could address concerns with books. Before, we were told that not, because we have thousands of books in our library system, that we don't always know exactly what's in them. And so identifying every book that might have sexually explicit content was not something we were doing as a district. So when we took on this policy, we wanted to do two things. We wanted to identify those books so that parents could make a choice. And that's exactly what they do. They choose for their own minor. We don't make a decision on whether that book is good or bad. We just give the parent the information they need to decide if they think their minor is ready to read about sexually explicit content.
Yes.
I think that's a little disingenuous in that, yes, for the first policy, that is true. That is, it's on a list to give parents permission, but ultimately that list and the decisions we're making about what qualifies as sexually explicit are guiding the second policy. And I understand that we went through the process and that the process made that decision, but I also really wish we were having the chance to have a discussion on it as well, because that was my biggest concern about the broadness and the things as well, that we're not all going to agree on what counts as sexually explicit. And I think that's clear.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can respond. I appreciate that, and I agree with you that we're not always going to agree, but I will remind everyone that those that don't like the policy didn't participate in the process of defining that definition. So, we did our best. We worked with council and we consulted other districts and other states and did our very best to try to just give parents the information they needed to choose for themselves.
We didn't participate because we didn't agree.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Good.
That's correct. I agree with trustee Hinkle. They didn't agree that they should be doing it at all.
Correct.
Any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to affirm the superintendent's determination that Monday is not coming. Contains sexually explicit content. All those in favor say aye.
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 So can I see hands on them? Like we have 3. All those opposed, no.
No.
We have 2, so it takes 4 votes, so I will vote yes. So that's a 4 to 2 vote. Motion passes. All right, the next regular board meeting will be held on Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. A work session will begin at 5 p.m. The business of the district is done, except it's not quite. We have, during our executive session today, we are going to be narrowing down, we have 10 people that have signed up to, or that have expressed interest in becoming our new trustee to replace trustee Edgerton. And so we'll be having a discussion during our executive session today to try to narrow that down to just 3, so then we can do some interviews in the next week or so. All right, but I'm going to give you the names right now of who it is that's expressed interest. We have, make it a little larger. We have Nora Tamez, Thomas Lear, Patricia McCoy, Shelley Downham, Samantha Sanchez. There's also goes by Sam Van Riper, Kiwi Burkhart, Kathy Sigliano, Isaiah Tafoya, Natasha Brown, and Marilyn Burton. And Marilyn's name was a little bit there on the thing. Okay, so now we're going to go into our next part, which is the second public comment. I wanted to make sure that you heard those names for you in there, just in case one of those people is here and would like to speak to us, or in case somebody had a comment about those. We're going to go first of all the people that have already signed up for non-agenda topics, and that first person is Heather Webb. And just remind you what I heard for the guidelines earlier. I hope you still remember those.
Yes, and how intimidating to have 3 minutes right in front of you, right? All right, so good evening. My name is Heather Webb Springer. Last time I was signed up to speak, and I apologize, I was not able to attend. I have twin 4.5-year-olds who have dance on Monday evening. So my husband was here in my stead last time. I'm here tonight. He's taking care of children. I'm here to speak about the October 7th vote to advance the 4C option in the Mercer report. And just to clarify, just so everyone knows, because maybe not even everyone in the room knows that that vote advances to decommission Bain, Lebhart, Hubbard, Henderson, Fairview, Deming, Miller, and Jessup. 3 schools in the Central Triad, 1 school in the East Triad, and 4 schools in the South Triad. I'm considering my children. We wanted to walk our children to Deming. That's our neighborhood. It's safe for us to get there. I call it our neighborhood because I don't have to cross Randall and Pershing to get to Pioneer Park. Deming is safe. We pass our neighbors on our way to that school. I also want to point out that it was wonderful that you were able to visit Lebhart recently. That school will now be closed. I'm curious if the pre-K student population was considered in the study. There are many concerns with the study. Many were not questioned and left unanswered. The board had an option last meeting to say we have concerns and many questions unanswered. The board elected to not do that. Public comment was not considered or invited. Parents were required to download a 150+ page document via an app. That is not equity. That is not communication. That is not transparency. You speak about the opportunity for parents to voice their concerns regarding literature. It seems like that is a much more transparent process than what was conducted regarding the closure of 8 schools in our district. Safety and transport was not considered. City infrastructure. Public comment, I believe at this point was honestly obstructed. I represent over 700 families that are saying no. We're saying, no, you have not considered our students. You have not considered equity when you're saying we're removing neighborhood schools where students go to access food in the summer. Parents need to be able to walk to the schools to be engaged. You are not considering students. You're not considering your community. And this was a very poor decision. Many people in this community believe so. I urge the board to now take progressive actions to remedy these concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I will mention one thing you said was pre-K considered, and of course, that's not considered a part of the basket of goods from the state. So it would not have been considered when they went through that process. And again, it's not our process. It was their process. It was just kind of passing through us as it went along. Okay, next person was going to be Mansfield Little.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board. My name is Mansfield Little. The reason I'm speaking before you today is in regards to the issue of racism, which is currently going on within the school district. A lot of people are not aware it is going on. It's flying underneath the radar. My child was recently a victim of this a few weeks ago. She came out from a volleyball game to a car having a SWAT sticker on it and the word NIGGER written across the hood of the car. I was told that the young men who had done this said he was trying to play a joke on their friend, which was supposed to be another young male. I'm a father. It happened at nighttime. The school parking lot is not brightly lit at all. The only reason something was done about it is because we told them we filed a police report. Then all of a sudden they jumped out of their seats to try to help us. After one of the assistant principals told us they couldn't see anything on the camera. And I told them that is a lie. I know for a fact they have infrared on these cameras. They can see at nighttime with motion sensors. So something needs to be done in regards to this, because if not, it's going to continue on. I've had stories. Last week we had a meeting. We had stories where there's a young kid that goes to Fairview experiencing racism currently right now. His mom doesn't even want to be in school anymore because of that. There's a freshman that goes to East that the mother pulled her kid out of school because she's dealing with racism and she's doing homeschool. And it's getting swept underneath the rug. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. Something needs to be done. I'm tired of hearing these stories back and forth. Didn't experience it with my child dealing with that. She doesn't bother anybody. She gets good grades. She doesn't do anything crazy. I got her a car as a birthday gift, not for it to be vandalized. With the police report, the police closed the case. They said because there was no physical damage done to the vehicle, they can't charge anything, not even vandalism. The RSO at the school didn't even know about it because the administration there didn't say anything. They let it go. He found about it from a desk sergeant from the precinct that we called and spoke with. So communication is not there between the school and what's going on in these communities and stuff like that. And I feel it's going to get even worse as time goes on, and something needs to be done. I feel you guys need to have some type of protocol in place. We have these student orientations. You give out a leaflet explaining about your zero tolerance to racism within the school. Give it to the parents, not the students, the parents, so they understand. If something happens, these kids will face this type of action because of their actions. Racism is taught, it is not inherited. Once again, racism is taught, it is not inherited. I'm gonna say that one more time. Racism is taught, it is not inherited. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Next up is Patricia McCoy.
Good evening, board members. My name is Patricia McCoy. I'm a Southside mom since '08. And I have to tell you, attending that meeting this week and hearing those stories of things happening in my triad at my son's school, that broke my heart. My kid goes to that school. He doesn't want to go to that school either. And for many reasons. And that breaks my heart for these kids. It's racism, it's hate, it's people talking down to the special needs kids and abusing them, the other students. It's uncalled for and it's unnecessary. Yes, we also have threats in our schools now that are getting more and more frequent and more out of control. We have excellent policies in place right now to address these things. But as a community, we feel like they're not being fully enforced because we keep seeing more and more of this happening with no communication from the district about it. We have Chapter 8, Section 10, student rights and responsibilities. The students are to be held accountable for their behaviors. Follow that with Section 8, Chapter 8, Section 11, disruptive student behavior, discipline, and detention. That outlines what punishments they're supposed to get. But we don't feel like those punishments are being enforced at all. I mean, I know Dr. Gentry inherited a hot mess when she became principal because I've been there since 2014. I've seen it all. I appreciate Dr. Newton trying to address that in his announcements before speaking to everyone. I really do. But I just ask that this board hold the district policies in place and enforce them. Protect our students. If a child has disruptive behavior and is causing hate to another child, handle it. Call that parent, hold that child and parent accountable. Unless we have accountability for these actions, they're going to keep escalating and they're going to keep spreading throughout our district. It's time, long past time, to nip it in the bud. You already have what you need in your policy. And you also came out with a statement as a board to say, we have zero tolerance for this. We're not going to allow this to happen. But it is. And you need to be aware of that and you need to do something about it. Thank you for your time this evening.
I'm gonna, anybody else sign up to speak? Is there anybody online that would like to speak on an agenda topic? Please raise your hand if you're online.
There's one hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute.
Go ahead and speak if you can hear us.
Looks like we're not getting any audio from you.
While waiting on that, is there anybody else in the room here who would like to speak on a non-agenda topic? Come on up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for letting me speak. I, as a parent, grandparent.
Name, first and last name.
I apologize. My name is Glee Net from Cheyenne.
What was the last name?
Net, N-E-T-T.
Thank you.
I would like to speak regarding this Mercer. I understand now from Brittany, who was very kind to explain it to me, how and where it came to be from the legislature down to you. I, as a parent, as a grandparent, and a member of this community, I'm really ashamed that there's not more public input about this. I realize it got handed to you, but I don't believe the handling that you have given us, the public, is fair. I would ask you to delay your decision, upcoming decision on this, and ask for more public input. There are many parents and grandparents that I've talked to, and even my neighbors, that have no idea this is even going on. And granted, not everybody takes the print newspaper. Not everybody has the computers to get online. I think it needs to be put out more. And I think you need to listen to what the parents, the neighbors, the people who pay the taxes for you doing your job have a right to have an input on this. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Are we ready? Online?
Another shot here. Go ahead and unmute.
All right, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes. First and last
Okay.
name?
Yeah, my name is Melissa Earl, and I'm a mother of a 7th grader that attends Cary Junior High. And I just wanted to chime in about that recent incident that happened to that child where her vehicle was parked and she had racist slurs on her vehicle. I would really like to see all schools increase their technology when it comes to those cameras. And like the gentleman said, the lighting, I just think it would make all parents feel more at ease. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else here or online? And if you're online, raise your hand, please. Come on up.
Hello, board or committee, I guess, in this circumstance. My name is Autumn Monfrey. I am a recent sociology graduate. I studied race relations and macro level policy and how it affects minority communities. I have also had the privilege of being a teacher at Cary Junior High School, as well as an East High School coach. And then lastly, I grew up here. I am a person of color. I wasn't initially planning on speaking, so bear with me. In regards to the race incidents of LCSD1. I wasn't exactly sure what perspective I wanted to take and what lens I wanted to look at through my many lenses and expertise. What has now come to mind is the amount of students I've had that are students of color. As you guys know, we keep a profile, and within each student's profile, it has every behavioral incident, whether they are a victim of something that has happened, whether they have engaged in some kind of conduct. While I was a teacher, I did look at my student of color, and there was over 10 complaints involving race. I then went, out of curiosity and being a researcher, I decided to go to my other students of color and look at their profiles. And I would just like to say that every single student of color that I went through that I knew and was close to all had incidences of racism within their record. With that being said, I think it's fair to say in all transparency that our district is confused when it comes to race. I think our administration is confused on what to do when it comes to race. And I think as a result, our students are also confused. So I really think it's time that we lead the way and start having these discussions, not just like PTO where somebody comes in, because I think teachers are already put in a position where some of them take it serious, some not as much as others, but we need to like get down to the nitty gritty and decide what we're going to do as a community, because it looks like we're all confused and we're all frustrated and we're all angry. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else here or online? Raise your hand if you're online. Come on up. Brave to come up and talk to us. And you're all the people online that you're talking to.
Hi, my name is, good night, good evening. My name is Laura West. I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure of what's the protocol of getting on the board. But I think it would be a little bit easier if there was someone of color on the board. That way, not to say that you guys are not being fair, but you guys do not know what we've been through and what our history is. So if there was someone on the board of color, I could say, when you have your meetings with us, I can say, you can think one way, and I can say, that's not really what goes on when there's children of color. Maybe you guys should think this way. So I don't know why there isn't anyone of color on the board. Maybe it's not easy for us to get on there, or I don't know, because I don't know what it takes to become a board member. But apparently it's not that easy because there's not one of us on there. I would love to be on the board, but when I went to try to find out how to get on it, you have to go through a campaign, and you have to go through this, and you have to go through that, which is something that I'm not used to doing, and you on the board, I know how to do. So maybe that is something that you guys can maybe help with or make easier, so someone of color can get on the board, so that we can help you guys to understand our children a little bit better, because there's no way that you guys can know what we've gone through because you haven't gone through it. And it may be something that you not even understand because you don't have to deal with people of our color or deal with what we have to go through being in this skin. You know what I'm saying? So I worked in CRMC, I worked JCPenney, I worked with a lot of places here, Laramie County School District, and I've gone through a lot of racism from adults. It's not just children. So we just need someone of color to be on your board so that you can understand what our children go through and us go through as adults. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I normally don't have a backboard here, but I will answer your question about what do you do to get on the board, and that is there's 3 weeks in August where you can go down and sign up to become a candidate for the board. This time there were 3 at large positions, which means everybody in the Laramie County Schools #1 gets to vote for those positions. Next time, in 2 years from now, we'll have 3 Triad representatives, one from South Triad, one East Triad, one from Central Triad. And for those, you don't have to campaign as much because you're only doing a third of the district each time. So, and then there will be one at-large position then. So that's how you get voted into the board. Okay, we have a unique situation right now that's happened. I've been on the board for 12 years now. So this is my 3rd time that we're actually appointing somebody. So we had Trustee Edgerton resign for personal reasons. And so we had a position open. So we advertised it and gave everyone until noon today to put in a letter of interest on whether we want to do that. And we had 10 people did it. I just read the names a little bit ago. And that's great. We have that many people that were interested. And I can tell you there are a few people of color that are on that list. So they will be considered just as everyone else is. So that's a little easier process to get appointed. Used to be we could have anywhere from 12 to 13 people running every time. Last few elections, it's gone down to about 7 people that are running. So again, those are the ways that you can actually become a board member. So a very unique situation this time with the appointment. So, and the nice thing, sometimes the appointment only lasts for a few months, depending on when it is that they resign. This time, that person will actually have 2 years on the board. So until that resign, because of the timing of when it happened.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Is there anybody else here or online?
There is a hand raised online.
Okay, go ahead online first.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Carol Mathia. Our church book club read Monday's Not Coming. We found nothing sexually explicit about it and find that in the light of the recent meeting held by parents about racism their students have experienced in the district, it's especially awful to limit access to a book that is by an African-American author that addresses the topic of race. One of the themes of the book is exploring whether some lives are valued more than others and whether more attention would have been paid to Monday's disappearance had she been wealthier and white. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that somebody kind of back over here first. Why don't you come on up? Well, we'll get to you, Todd. You've already had one chance to speak, but I'll get you through. We'll get to you eventually. We'll get these other hands first.
Hi. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dr. Newton, I'm here. My name is Dirk Deitzel. I have a kindergartner in the district. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier, so some of these comments might be looking at the things that have come up before, so I apologize if that's true. I came last time you guys were talking about the Mercer study, and in that conversation, I tried to appeal to you that you absolutely had a choice in this process, and you should have used that choice. And the reason is because this Mercer study, I encourage you to go back and read. In there, you'll find that 13 members in a July workshop in a private meeting worked out the details of this. 3 members of the district staff proposed the remedies that are in this. The only one that's actually proposed from the district is LARO1, and that closes 7 schools. So many of you said last time that your hands were tied, that you didn't have a choice in this process. That's emphatically not true. In fact, the district, through your staff, have moved forward these propositions to close these schools and have done so for many months. So the fact that public input has not been a part of this process, there should be some questions answered here. This is supposed to be the most cost-effective remedy, not the one that appeals to the district wants or to staff member wants. In this, we have remedy 1A, remedy 1B, both of which are remedies to meet the adequacy standards, none of which close schools. They both come under the budget that was already appropriated. The ROM costs associated with that is $88 million to remedy the potential or the inadequate facilities so far, and then 1A is $66 million in its estimated costs. Somehow we've gone from a most cost-effective remedy to one that gets to the most costly. In terms of just the budget alone in the study, the most costly remedy is the one that's actually adopted. That's quite troubling, especially when most of the additional funding that's going to be required is going to have to go back to the legislature, which we do not believe is going to be funded. On top of this, there was 18 potential remedies to start. 15 of these were whittled down and tossed out before any cost analysis was actually done on them. The This is in the Mercer study itself, and it expressly states this. 15 of the 18 remedies were thrown out with any cost analysis, and it was done at the direction of the district in order to further the district's vision and the goals as expressly stated within the Mercer. So thank you for the time to speak. There's a lot of troubling issues with this Mercer. I really wish you would have considered this further. I think there's a lot of questions that you continue to need to ask about this. My time's up, so thank you again for allowing me to come and speak to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bexel. And anybody else online or in? And I think we had somebody, did you want to speak to? In the yellow shirt there? Oh, green. But you had your hand up earlier, so. We'll give you another chance here if you want to come up.
Hi, sorry if I jumped the gun in front of anybody, but my name is Danica Mrozinski. I helped facilitate the meeting that was held last week on Wednesday with the group wearing yellow here tonight. I came up here just to relay some of the notes that I took during the meeting and to tell you some of the fears and issues that I heard people expressing. These aren't in any kind of order because I'm just going off my chicken scratch from the other night, but one of the big ones was that students don't feel comfortable reporting to admin or teachers out of fear of backlash from the students who are being the aggressors. Additionally, they don't know how to report or who to report to. Being the only Black person in a classroom, even if you have a nice white teacher at the front, might not be the most comfortable thing to step up and have to report that. A lot of the time, if something happens to someone, much like in cases of rape or sexual harassment, the victim of it doesn't want the extra attention put on them. They want to fly under the radar. They just want it to not have happened at all. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. There is a zero tolerance policy in place. What I was hearing from these parents was that they don't know what that means. They don't know what kind of repercussions or punishment or follow-up happens. I think there was a lot of frustration with not getting any kind of closure or any kind of follow-up on the situation, which I understand you have to protect the privacy of students, but at the same time, the ones who are doing the aggressors in the situation, they might be getting a punishment, but the people who are suffering and moving forward in fear, they don't know what happened. They don't know if anybody has their back at the end of the day. I think that's one of the big frustrations people had. The fact that there's not very many people of color who are leading the schools or at the fronts of the classrooms really makes students not feel as comfortable to go forward. Again, the transparency, there needs to be some kind of resolution for these parents and these students who are the victims of this aggression. I think that was the biggest message that I heard, and I think there are different ways we can go about that. So I would like for you guys to think about how we could implement some kind of resolution program for people.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Todd? Did you want to come up? Did you decide? Yeah, no? I'll give you another 3 minutes to think about it. Come on up if you're gonna go. Todd will give you a chance. It's hard for everybody.
My voice carries. My name is Nathan Williamson, everyone. I'm a resident of Cheyenne. I'm a very passionate person, so it was hard for me to come today and really keep my composure and stuff, because when I talk, And I just feel like I don't have any kids in the system, in the school system. They're grown, but I have grandkids and I have friends who have kids in the school system, multiracial, white, black, all kids, all races. And I feel like all of them really suffer at the hands of racism because it's almost like it's being overlooked. And then when it is brought to the attention of certain individuals, especially people of authority in the school system, it's almost like it's just, shunned away or overlooked. And if you're forced to do something about it, not you per se, but in general, if you're forced to do something about it, it's almost like the victim is going to be the one that's punished because everybody is worried about the privacy of the perpetrator and not the dignity and respect of the victim. So, and it really hit home because both Black people have been victims of racism, but to a kid, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And her little girl shouldn't have went through that because, first of all, what kid is supposed to, I know every kid know what the N word is, but you're going too far. Now you're putting swastikas and all of this weird stuff. And then when the parents demand to know what's going on, the school system just say, oh, it's been handled. That's not fair to the public. That's not fair to that little girl. That's not fair to her parents. Because all our ideas of it's been handled could mean anything. I heard they was made to apologize. Anybody can say they sorry. We all can say we sorry. And we know they sorry. We know that. But I mean, are you truly, truly atoning for disrespect and belittling that person? Like, you need to be penalized for your actions so you would never want to do that again. A school is supposed to be a no-fly zone. So, because we all know it's taught and it starts at home. We all know that. But when you bring it to school, all of that fly out the window because everybody deserves conflict-free learning, period. And when you disrupting that learning curve, you need to be the one on the outside, not the victim. And the school don't really, I feel like they really don't process that enough and enforce that. Like you said, something need to be done at these orientations, some flyers or something to let them know the importance of zero tolerance. Thank you.
Thank you for being brave enough to come up. You did a great job of speaking. Okay, class.
Trustees, I'm Todd Reynolds, parent of 2 girls in LCSD1. One of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. As an English teacher, what I like to read for are themes. It requires you to take the whole book into account, and we know that it's not what we like to do here. But tonight, I want to look at the whole meeting and kind of look at what we saw tonight at this meeting, because what we've heard so far is we've heard about the destruction of neighborhood schools that's coming. We've heard about dyslexia and literacy issues that you had a nice statement about, and we heard some other suggestions about that. And you've also been confronted with some really cold, hard truths about racism in this district, things that you've heard about for years and still have yet to do much about. At the same time, you refuse to have a hearing on Monday's Not Coming. And I think this is really important because Monday's Not Coming deals with the neighborhood that's being destroyed. It deals with the neighborhood that's being taken over. It deals with a girl who has literacy issues. It's a girl who can't read, is growing up in trouble in schools because of that. And it deals with the erasure of Black girls. And you tonight are so blinded by this script you've been given that you can't even take the time to have an informal hearing on a book that contains no actual simulated or animated sexual conduct acts as defined by your own policy. Now I hear that you read the book, and that's wonderful that you read the book, but I question if you read the book. It's clear that in the nominating passages that you refused to listen to in the informal hearing, that not one single actual, animated, or simulated sexual conduct act takes place. Not one. There are some phrases that you might not like, but your own policy says that a passing reference isn't good enough to be labeled sexually explicit. Now, you didn't want to hear about a book by a Black author about the erasure of Black girls because you didn't want to. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. The problems that we're having here come from the top. They always have come from the top. And we see it over and over and over again. We read what you wrote 2 years ago about how proud you were to protect hate speech under the First Amendment. No, I have the screenshot and I have the link and it's there and I know what you've done and I know what you've said and I know what you continue to tell us over and over again. And I see your actions and you refuse to act over and over and over again. And tonight you refuse to even listen to a book by a Black author about the erasure of a Black girl. Again. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Thank you.
Anybody else? Either here or online?
Mr. Chairman, there are no hands raised online.
Okay. I would like to say that a couple of people have commented on the fact that we don't look out for the victim. I do tell you that if it's at all possible, we make the victim be just as anonymous as the perpetrator of the act. Sometimes that's not possible because of some of the focus that happens, but we certainly do that. And one thing we do offer is we offer counseling services to those people. So if they have been traumatized by something that happened, we have a lot of counselors in our buildings that can help those students out. So we are looking out for the victims and unfortunately we cannot talk about what even as board members, we don't get to learn when we long-term suspend somebody, we don't know who they are. All we know is what grade they were in and sometimes what school they were in. So we have to keep it anonymous just to protect the rights. And unfortunately, in our country, everybody's rights have to be protected, whether that person did something bad or whether they were the victim of something. So we try to protect everybody. And unfortunately, it's not always possible. These things are still going to happen occasionally. I'm really glad to hear that a public meeting, community meeting was held. I think this has to start with a community action to get this thing under control. And we've had several of those community meetings over the last few years. I attended the one after the incident at McCormick. I wasn't able to attend this one. And I know that the more we can talk about these things, hopefully the more we can fix it. So I think there's probably, even though it may not look like it after that incident right there, we really are making some progress in our community. But it's going to take the whole community to do that. It can't just be the schools. The schools are in some cases a reflection of what's going on in the community, and we can start there and we can certainly do whatever we can. We cannot fix the problem completely by ourselves. So I appreciate all the community that worked on that, and hopefully we can get together and come up with things that we can do as a community to help lessen the problem of these things. Yes, go ahead.
We, as a board, typically don't, most of you know, respond at all to public comment. We're here to hear it, but we don't engage in back and forth. But I'm appalled by the insinuation that the determination about a book had anything to do with the color of the skin of the author or the characters in the book. I'm like almost sick to my stomach about it. My determination of that book, including sexual content, has to do with text that deals with oral sex, and it deals with students having sex on a desk in a classroom in the building. It's here, it's in print. It had nothing to do with the author or the characters. It really was incidences in the book, which I did read from front to back. But I just, to tie that to racism is just, I mean, I'm just sickened that we would even try to go there. Has nothing to do with it.
The good thing about this process is this book may become more popular now and more people may read it as a result of us talking about it. So maybe that'll be a good thing. So, yes, go ahead.
And everyone who would like their student to read it can. Because now parents that don't want their student to read about oral sex before they think they're ready can opt out. And parents that want their student to read about oral sex, no matter what color the person is. You know, some of these books are people getting it on with puppets and animals. You may not want your minor learning about that at the tender age of 12. Some parents do want that, and that is now everyone is able to choose.
Anybody else in the audience? Come on up, because otherwise, the people online are not gonna be able to hear you. Oh, wait till you get the microphone, so that everybody can hear you, because we are online, and they wouldn't hear a thing you said.
That's, okay, but I'm a little confused. Because when my youngest, who is 20-something now, I can't remember, but when she was in, going to South, the nurses was giving out condoms. They were giving out condoms. I didn't know that she was getting condoms from there, so that's okay for the nurses at the high school to give out condoms, but we having all this controversy over a book? I don't understand. I don't understand why a nurse was giving my daughter condoms, which when you get condoms is saying, okay, go out and have sex. But this book, we don't want them to read about it, but it's okay for the nurse to say it's okay for them to do it. That's the part I don't understand. So I don't understand, did the board vote for the kids to read the book, or did the board vote for the kids not to read the book? That's the part I don't understand. If someone can answer that for me.
Mr. Chair.
I mean, yes, you read the book and you apparently don't like it. Dr. Hinkle said it's okay. Well, not okay, but it's okay for the students to read it because she felt like they should know about it. So is the book gonna stay on the shelves, or are we gonna take the books off the shelf?
Mr. Chair.
Our policy says that somebody can challenge a book, it goes on the sex explicit list. And then parents have, at the beginning of the year, when they register, they have to click on one of 4 options. One option is they can have access to all the materials that are in the library. One of them is they can have access to no materials in the library. One of them is a parent can come in and prepare a list of books that they have access to. And the third one is they can have access to everything but the things that are on the sex explicit list. So that's what this is. This was being put on a sex explicit list. We're not taking it out of the libraries, other than we would not have it in an elementary library. But if it's in a junior high library or a senior high library, it will stay there. And just the parents that have chosen no sexually explicit would not have access to it.
Okay. But.
And I think there's still a lot of confusion out there about
It's very confusing, but.
about what we did. We gave a choice. And before the choice was you either had everything or you had to come up with your list. And coming up with that list of what's okay for your child to read or not read was burdensome, not only for the parent, but also for the librarian. If they had to do that for every one of our 14,000 students, they wouldn't have time in the school year to get that done. So
I totally agree.
this way, there's one choice that they have to make. It takes a couple seconds during registration. Plus, they can change that anytime during the year by going in and making that.
Okay. And I wanted to say that I'm glad that you read the book. I have not read the book, but I will. But any type of book that has a person of color, written by a person of color, is definitely about racism. It's definitely it. And I'm so sorry that it sickens you. It just further makes me wonder, are you not understanding what's going on when it comes to that? Because it sickens me also, but it sickens me because I know that little girl in there probably went through something that I went through when I was younger.
The book did not sicken me. The insinuation that we have said it's sexually explicit because it has racial, or because it has
Well, I agree
characters
with
of
you. It should
color.
sicken you. It should.
No,
It sickens me as
the
well.
accusation that we decided it had sexually explicit content and tying that to insinuating that we did that because it is written by a person of color or has characters
okay.
that are of color. That's what sickens me,
Okay.
not the book.
Okay.
No.
All
not
right.
the
Well,
book.
thank
It
you,
was a
guys.
good book.
Ms. Clausen, did you have something? Did we
I-
cover it?
No, you clarified. I think, Mr. Chair, thank you. You know, a lot of times people come and say, boy, you spend a lot of time on this book policy. It's because we have people in our community that keep bringing it up. And this isn't about taking books off the shelf. It never has been. It's not about Blacks. It's not about Asians or any other type of race. I agree. It would be nice to have a person of color, and especially that's why, and Mr. Chairman was humble. He actually initiated setting up the triad system so that we would have a South Triad representative. And that would be easier for people in the South Side to run and get elected for this board. I supported that. But there's so much misinformation, and it's the fault of the media, I'll be honest with you, because they're not following up on what they're hearing from people who oppose parents having a choice for their minor. Parents having a choice for the minor should be something we all agree on, because we can have our own values imposed on our own children, right? But there is a loud minority, I believe, but a loud community, let's say that, who for some reason don't want you to know what their children are reading. And I don't understand that. But I agree with our policy that we passed, the majority of us passed. And I'd like to move on to other topics. We work on a lot of other issues just for you all to know that it's not just about this issue.
Anybody else? Anybody else online or in the room? Don't want to cut anybody off. Oh, okay, I thought he was done.
There's a hand raised online.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes, this is Carol Mathai again. I think that some people on the board have misunderstood. I was not trying to imply that you want that book not available to all students because of racism. You want it not available because you think it's sexually explicit. A lot of people do not think it's sexually explicit. And because of that, people are being denied being able to read this book that deals also with racism. Also, I think that Mr. Bolin did not fully explain the new policy because now the procurement policy says that a librarian has to give their list of books before they procure them. They can now take books and deny everyone from reading those books. So it's not just sexually explicit. It's saying we don't want anyone to be able to read these books. Thank you.
Carol, we had a restart of our computer here. We are coming back online in just a moment.
Break right now, or wait, come back up. Usually during the meeting, but there was a whole meeting.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we have one of our board members that stepped out briefly, so we'll wait till she gets back. So a little more awkward silence.
Carol, we were taking a quick break. We'll be right back.
Break up the board of use. Yeah, so Carol, you may continue.
Okay. I in no way meant to imply that you did not want Monday's Not Coming because it deals with racism. What I was trying to say is that because you think sexually explicit items are in the book, which a lot of people do not think, you are denying people to read a book that deals with racism. Also, I think that Mr. Boland did not fully explain the new library policy, because now with the new procurement policy, you haven't removed books, but you're preventing future award-winning books to be purchased, because you're saying before those books are purchased, you think they should not be purchased. And that is in effect banning books from the library. Thank you.
Okay. One more time. Anybody else here or online? Please raise your hand if you're online. Okay, so now we're going to do a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to go into executive session at this time prior to adjournment for the purpose of possible student long-term suspensions and expulsions, personnel, legal advice, potential litigation, and to consider the appointment of a public officer.
I second.
Motion second to go into executive session this time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, motion passes, and we'll be in executive session. We will come out of executive session to take any actions